Fire, what you saying?
Yes, Fire Key, give thanks to life, brother, you know?
Serious that we are back in the studio on a special day with the bloodline here, the great Donovan Joseph here on the side. And I think he'll be there Sunday. Before we let the people know what reason about, I have to remind the people this Sunday will be outside at Ito Kitchen, Baldhead and the Dread podcast party, 1032 Union Street, live podcast, live music, good food, good vibes, good conversation with a special guest, legendary, straight from JA. Fire, what reason about today?
Yeah, well, today we are reason about the miserable life of Faultfinders and complainers. You know, when we talk about fault finding, we just want to give people the definition. A fault finder is a person who criticizes something or someone often, usually in an unrealistic manner or a manner that is not logical. So really want to dig into how that really impact the life of those individuals who do that and show us that there is no form of positive traits towards the type of behavior.
And Fire, we have to be, what's the term they use in corporate? Transparent. We have to be transparent. So I'm a recovered fault finder and complainer, right?
Yeah.
And with my own personal experience, there were two parts to it. The first part is that's what I grew up around. You get what I'm saying? Like everywhere I grew up, well, the environment I was in, people always found fault in something, Fire. Regardless of what it is, there's some criticism about that thing. It just couldn't be good. Everything had to have some critique or some issue with it. And being in that environment, I internalized that. Thankfully, I was able to identify that and fix it moving forward. But I definitely could relate to that fault finder culture. It's definitely a self-worth issue that falls into play, right? And I don't like using the word toxic, but it is toxic at the end of the day, Fire, for your mental, because you don't see any good or joy in anything. Everything has to have an issue, Fire, right? If you go somewhere, right, somebody gives you some food, there's something wrong with the food, right? If you go watch a movie, there's something wrong with the movie. If you go to a concert, there's something wrong with the concert. It's always a vibe, and I think that for a lot of people, it's not intentional. It's on a subconscious level, and it's cultural. Because we spoke about this right, on different instances where it's like, it's just always an issue, right? And with this fault finder, I know we're going to tie into complaining, but I noticed with the fault finder is that cortisol, Fire, is going to get that cortisol high. And it's like you already have other things that's going to increase your stress. And I think people don't understand how their actions and their thoughts keep their stress level at such a natural high level throughout the day, which leads to other health issues, right? But me personally, what I had to notice is that one, I had to identify that Fire. I just be finding issues with stuff that's not necessarily really there. And also too, like nothing's perfect. You get what I'm saying? And another issue, Fire, that really changed it was that the fault finding I projected onto others was the fault finding I found within myself. So when I changed how I view myself, I was able to change how I viewed the outside world.
Yeah, cause it's a learned behavior still, you know. It's fully, as they say, like it's cultural. It's a learned behavior. So I feel like it become a norm after a time, because after you consistently criticize something and then you criticize the next thing, then naturally the next thing will come in front of you, criticize it too. But one of the main things that I want to highlight with this whole fault finding thing is when you really sit down and break down the concept of fault finding, you realize number one is ego, driven by ego. Is a matter of, okay, and then the competition now is where it come in, because we have a culture we span around competition. It's almost like anybody doing their own thing, we feel like it's a competition to what we are doing. And then automatically, that's how the whole fault finding thing come in. And then something more interesting with this whole fault finding thing is that our culture, it's so toxic to a level where we not rate nobody. And we have to understand. No, and it mess up, because if you are the one thing and the next man do that thing, you can't compliment him, or you can't compliment your brother, you can't compliment your sister. You know, say I like that aspect of the whole thing. The only piece that you can really find is the part that you don't agree with or you don't think is right. You highlight that, you stick to that, and then the whole concept become negative.
Or you make it up.
All right. Cause it start get heightened, you know, because the more you start build these things, certain things. So you see, even if there was a fault to be found, right? So there was a fault to be found. You know, emphasize that fault now and start bringing new concept, more concept in this now, and it start distract the whole thing, and then it's just a negative spiral start off of that.
And you brought up a great point, and I know we spoke about the jealousy earlier. It kind of ties into it, but with the fault finding, man, as you said, I'll never forget, man. I'll never forget, like, when Malcolm X came out, and later in life, I was able to reflect and see the magnitude of what Spike Lee did. But I remember when that movie came out, and people were cussing Spike Lee for all these different things, disregarding that this man put out one of the greatest movies of all time to highlight one of our greatest heroes of all time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, none of that mattered. It's the most pointless thing. Oh, he said this. Oh, he did that. You know, and it definitely ties into the self-hate. We do have a deep, deep self-hate for ourselves and those who look like us. It's a snowball effect because it's a cultural thing, a subcultural thing, because it's not a monolith. It's not the whole culture, but it's a subculture within it where it really goes super hard. Do you see these fault finders? They think everyone is doing the same to them. That's what they do 24/7. And their reality is distorted because someone may not be paying them any mind at all. Or if someone actually gives them genuine, I know for me, coming out of that culture, if someone actually gave me a genuine strength or a compliment, I was kind of hesitant of it and kind of weary because that wasn't the norm of what I grew up around. It sounds toxic still, right? But that's just the reality.
No, it is toxic. It is toxic. So toxic, yeah.
Because nobody was really giving you no ratings like that. You know, anything you did is just like, you know, I remember when I got my basketball scholarship, right? Because growing up in that environment, I wasn't able to acknowledge like certain accomplishments till later on when you reflect. But I remember somebody clearly said, like, you know, Division I is like the thing for like basketball. That's like the pinnacle, right? But it's like, oh, but it's mid-major. You get what I'm saying? Because you have your Duke, you have your mid school, you have your lower tier. And it's just like, they disregarded the fact that you actually got a scholarship coming out of this environment. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And you're doing good for yourself. You're not in trouble. They disregard the whole fact because you're not going to a bigger school. But this is coming from a person that, I don't know what they're doing with themselves. That's the next joke. That's the next joke. And anyone out there getting that or being bombarded with fault finding, please don't internalize it because it's usually coming from a person that I don't know what they're doing. But nonetheless, I remember this specific person that was carrying on about it is like analyzing like, what have you done at the most basic level of humanity? Nothing great, I mean, just like basic thing, like didn't graduate school, don't have a job, nothing's going on. And this is where the sound is coming from. Mm-hmm. And usually, truth be told, what I learned more and more, not to say it's not jealousy among successful people, but once you reach a certain level or around a certain tier of person, let's put liking and disliking to the side. There's a respect. There's a common respect because they respect the grind fire and they know that you really had to be committed to your craft to get to this point. Mm-hmm. I know we on the like thing sometimes, a disliking this. I'm not talking about nobody liking you, or I'm talking about a respect that's there amongst a certain level of people that really put in time towards stuff. So if you are in an environment that's saturated with the fault finding, you may want to find yourself in a different, maybe you've outgrown that area. You need to be or surround yourself with more progressive people. Not saying that there's not no jealousy there, but there is a respect amongst that circle that's not there amongst people that really haven't accomplished stuff, you know?
You know, two things, may I listen to that and two things come to my mind, right? With this concept of fault finding. One, most time the people who actually find faults with things, when you really ask them for break down the concept of the fault to them find them, they can't explain it.
They can't explain it. Right?
So it's just a matter of, it's just a thing where arousing them based off of what them say and that feeling again, of always feeling like there need to be some form of toxicity where them just feed off of that and them can't really internalize it. And then as they say, within the midst of that, they are not accomplishing certain things. So you know, from your standpoint now, while it might affect you, you're not really, in the moment, you're not internalizing the concept that these people are not progressive at all. But you're...
And not equipped to give an accurate analysis.
Equipped to give, and that's what this is going to lead to the second point now. Because the second point now is to show you that, one, because of that now, it'll lead towards this whole resentment thing now. And then this resentment now, we because of our culture being so effed up,
off.
No, it's a serious thing, because the culture so effed up, we don't understand that there's a difference between a fault finder and then there's a difference between a person giving you constructive criticism.
True.
So it almost seems like when somebody come around now to give you actual constructive criticism now,
cut them off because
you cut them off because you're so used to people bringing all of these negativity towards your brain. So you feel like this person say, this is not the right approach. Don't do this, don't do that. You see it as fault finding, not understanding that this is constructive criticism. So you realize now the negative effects and the big gap where the fault finding thing put in at the dent of the mind of the youth. Then we come up now for understand. So once you get constructive criticism, this is something we can push you forward for better yourself, enhance yourself. But because now you on the other end used to that now, it block you from receiving all of the blessing where you forget.
Serious thing. And I want to touch on something. I want to elaborate on something you said in regards to they're not equipped to give a accurate analysis. Timing, right?
If a man never play football, he might tell me how football go on the ball field.
All right. So with the timing though, universal timing, along with specific things.
Yeah.
People who haven't done stuff, back to us saying if you're around a person that done stuff, people who have not done stuff don't understand the timing aspect, right? They think things are done like ASAP. So it's like, hey, I'm gonna start a business. So I'm starting a business in January, right? Mm-hmm. And there's lease and there's all these things that have to take place, license you have to get. So the business don't open by May now. Look at this man. I told you he fighting me. I don't know what he's doing. Not knowing that there's certain processes you have no control over, right? Or it takes time for the business to develop, right? Mm-hmm. Oh, the man's struggling, this and that. But it's just like, it's a part of the process, bro.
Yeah, the ignorance.
You're not allowed. You know what I learned too, specifically in our community, in a certain subculture, in a certain demographic. You're not allowed to struggle. Mm-hmm. You're not allowed to go through hard times, right? You're not allowed to struggle at a specific thing because they equate struggling with losing. Mm-hmm. If you're struggling at something, if you're striving towards something and working towards something, fire, right? And it's not all this glory and highlight, you are considered a loser in certain demographics, and that goes against the laws of nature. There's always a growth period.
Hold on there, fire, because ears, me I listen to what you say, it makes sense. It makes sense logically still, but here what the problem I'm finding with that though.
Go ahead.
In a freedom world, it is almost like it natural. Like if you struggle, everybody who them say struggle feel to a certain extent because most of the people within freedom ecosystem and circle never once them drop down one time, them never try back a next thing. So to most people, that is natural, and to them, like while to the general concept of nature and all of these things and life itself, it not natural. But in a for them surrounding, my mind of like I want it. I could be clear, A lot of people grew up around losers who complain.
Loser too tough. Let's say
no. Me I say lose. No, me I talk it like it is.
Let's say idle.
No, me I talk about loser in regards to catch me mind. If you complain every day, if you negative every single day, if you don't have no form of spark of brightness and things that can bring you forward, you're a loser. And no matter what, it might sound harsh, but it's just a reality because if your mind is conditioned towards negativity
and consumed,
and then there's nothing else where no form of light to shine within your circle, and then mind you, a lot of these adults who portray certain behavior, they are conscious of these behavior, and a majority of them are conscious to a certain extent. That is. So you have to call it what it is, and it's not like we are trying just put down nobody, but it's just a reality of the environment where it spawn, and then the ego will come behind it now. It's almost like you have to call it what it is.
I want to touch on two things. One, I want to jump back in regards to the culture. I can't say a lot of people are striving because like there's no striving there, right? They just there. I can't even say they're existing. They're there because a lot of times it's not even something where they try something, and respect to those who even try. Because growing up where I grew up, fire is just like people weren't working like that, and people like I never heard anyone speak about a goal. I never really saw anyone work towards something. And those who had the courage to do so were just criticized, right? Like really, like just all eyes on them, and they would tear them down. And I think viewing that too discourages people from stepping out because they see how your peer group or how your environment treats you when you try to do something. That's not the norm, What's the second part, Fire? I lost it. What you just say prior to this? You're talking about the adults.
I remember to, you know, Fire. You see, I want even this concept of being a loser to, I really want it tie into the reasoning still, because I really want to expound upon this, you know. There's only two places I can be, you know. And being a loser no means say there's a negative connotation to it in from one aspect, but being a loser means you're just not winning.
At the moment.
And it's how you transition from being a person who is in a losing position.
Yeah.
To transition into that person who barely scraping, and then you continuously show the evolution. But I feel like once your minds are stuck in a negativity and then it consistently just a plague you, you have to be super strong for come out of that, you know.
No, I mean, listen, get trapped. Anyone who came out those environments are super strong.
You have to give them credit.
It's not to get out of some of these places, Fire. We're not even talking about the political aspect, Fire. We're talking about the mental aspect and the social and the cultural aspect within that environment. Fire, we can't leave out the complaining too. Can't leave out the complaining. We can't leave out the complaining, right? And I highly recommend that I have an extremely small circle. And the reason I do it is that I've learned over life is that you really have to protect yourself and you have to protect your energy and protect your mind. Some people come with a bag of things, Fire, that's non-progressive and it just burn you out, and I don't have time for it, right? The fault finding, I don't have time for it. And the complaining. Now, complaining is a tricky thing in a sense because complaining has a positive aspect to it. Sometimes it's good to complain in a healthy way, to kind of vent. You get what I'm saying? I know we're using the word complain, it has a negative connotation, but there are different aspects of complaining, right? The negative aspect of complaining now comes to where you just have this negative view of everything.
Hold on, Fire. Go ahead. Explain that one again. Positivity in a complaining.
I think with complaining, they have a thing they say like venting or getting stuff off of your chest, right? One would categorize
it's an expression, not complaining. What I'm more expressing yourself.
But that was still like by the definition of complaining though, that would be still considered complaining. Yeah, but it's done in a like this is just a time like fire, call fire, so boom, something going on, right? It's a complaint. But it's a healthy thing more to get something off my chest or to ask you for some information about it. But I'm not like losing myself just complaining, looking bad at the world, you know?
Yeah, the context, the way reason address. Okay.
So with the complaining now, what I noticed too is that it's like a bonding for a lot of people, right? It's the common thing. So it's just like, all right, sometimes I'm not saying like, listen, I got problems like everybody else, but my life is dope and my life is sweet. It's my perspective. I got a bunch of stuff maybe that shut down other people. They'll experience and figure it's the end of the world. I don't see it like that because everything's perspective, Fight. I know things that like nothing's absolute, right? I'll experience that for a time, but I'm able to like contextualize things and see the beauty in life at all times. You know, you have your little vibes. But what I notice is that, man, with the complaining is that it's so bad out here, right? You can't even go tell a man, say, yo, how you doing? Such and such. You can't tell him, say, yo, you making a move or you're doing this or you're working towards something. Even if things are going, you're struggling with something right now, but I'm still working towards something, Fight. It's just a rough patch. You can't have that conversation with the average person because once they see you, it's, the weather's bad today.
It's end all. Because really and truly, you know, is almost like it take over the being and the existence of most of the people and where them have to complain about things. And I feel like that the whole bonding thing they were there to talk about is not something for overlook, you know. Bonding over complaints is the new norm, you know. Where friends, most people become friends for the concept of complaining and talking about different things where I hurt them or things where them not agree with or things where make them uncomfortable. But you know the weird part about the whole thing.
Hold on. You gotta add something to this, Fire, right, for you to continue. They complaining about stuff that has nothing to do with them, Fire.
I wouldn't know control over too.
You get what I'm saying? That's the part. It's just like they're really consuming themselves over something that it has nothing to do with them. It's not even impacted them to a certain level. I just wanted to add that part.
Them I make it impact them because my mind of fire. It's almost like the people them can't like I put myself in the shoes as a complainer now. Me talk about a thing, it affect me every single day. Me no feel good if me get up and something don't affect me. So you say, oh, we become and make this thing become a part of our life, our daily existence. Because my mind, if the sun hot, people complain, say too hot. It get cold, them complain, say too cold. It's just almost like there's always a step And regard with every part of the ecosystem, somebody have to talk about this thing when make them uncomfortable. But then it's not just about them being uncomfortable. Yeah, if that was the case, that it would have bad and not so bad. But you know the worst part about it for you, even the things that are controllable within the complaint, these people are not taking action to fix it.
All right, so you have that lack of action, which makes it pointless to complain, right? Because there's no solution aspect. But there's another thing, Farah, I think we need to acknowledge is that could it be that people are addicted and comfortable with stress? Could it be if they don't feel stressed out, they feel weird because it's like their comfort zone is stress. Their comfort zone is problems, right? So if there's nothing, that's fire. Listen, I taught students that told me straight up, there was a thing called it's a program. Basically, the kids could write the answers so you could read them, but no one else could see them. And they were like being very truthful, right? Hey, a lot of the kids straight up said they have to cause problems, fire. They need confusion. They need conflict. They can't just sit and everything be cool. It scares them. It's boring, right? You see it in relationships. You see it in self-sabotage on people in the sense that like, man, you know, my life about to get a little good. You know, I think things going to calm down. And I F it up on purpose.
The member now, and you see, that's why I'm even telling the man about the music, you know, basically, all them want to talk, you know, I can't talk with the camera over there, so. You see, all our own so-called influencer and musician will lead the people them astray on our garbage. Because I see this whole trendy thing now of being toxic. I see hashtag toxic and all of these things. I mean, and then when really check it out, you know what the most hurtful part about this whole thing for you? This toxic behavior, it a carry out by all some female way, physically attractive and all of these different things now. And these people where you wouldn't even expect, and then all of these artists now push this narrative of being toxic. Remember, you know, toxicity is a thing where it connected to even complaints and it connected to things where now have nothing to do with your life being in a good direction. And it become a trend. So you see the whole concept of complaining fire is a thing where people push the narrative of complaint just because there will be a gap to fill. And then there's somebody now who come and benefit from that complaint now to start it in a new direction. And
with the trend thing, I think it's always been trending. It's just transferred to social media now because I grew up around it.
Yeah,
I was born in the 80s, and it's been going on before me because people wrote about it or an elder tell me about it. So it's nothing new, you know. And it's like I will say this with the complaining fire and the fault finding and everything is that there is a certain level of comfort in that culture for people because that's all they know. And it sounds away, but like people are terrified of things going good because it fluctuates. The what you would consider going good has a certain time span, and people like absolutes. So it's like, if this is not going to happen for the rest of my time and I have to deal with fluctuations, I'd rather do something I could control, which is this, where like, you know, if I don't have a problem, I'm going to find a problem or create a problem. So you have those who need to create actual conflict with others that actually create problems with other people, like create issues with family members and friends and mix up on their job, right? Then you have others now that have to analyze life and take that and complain about that and almost internalize or take on, as my Jamaican brethren would say, take on the issue. When one, it has nothing to do with them, they don't have an impact on it. It doesn't have an impact on them, but they internalize it. So it's like they're creating this reality of confusion to just stay in their comfort zone. And I think that anyone younger, if you find yourself in that situation, there's a lot of work you have to do to where you can like find peace in peace. Mm-hmm. It's okay for things to be quiet. It's okay for things to not be in conflict. It's okay for things to run smoothly. And it's okay when they don't run smoothly, because you're going to have periods where things are really irie according to you and where things are a little frustrating according to you.
And that is the biggest, I think that is the biggest key here, because we have to understand in life, we can't always control the narrative. Facts. And not because we can't control the narrative or the narrative is not playing into our favor. It doesn't mean you're bad luck. It doesn't mean that you're cursed. It don't mean all of these different things.
Just life, fire.
Just life. You understand?
You know? So we encourage anyone listening, man, if you're on the fault finding vibe or you find yourself in that fault finding vibe or that complaining vibe, you need to change your circle. And if that's you, fire, you need to go look inside to see, like, why are you so consumed with finding fault in everything?
Just lighten up yourself, man, because we need to be some angel being both here and bring some joy towards the world.
No, serious thing, you know? And we have to remind the people, August 25th, this Sunday, right? We'll be outside, a Baldhead and the Dread podcast party, live music, live podcast, good food, good vibes, good conversation at the Aito Kitchen, 1032 Union Street, Brooklyn, New York, from 6 p.m. until really till 9 p.m. still. You know how the vibes go, but if the vibe's there, we just keep making it work, you know?
Yes, sir.